Hi, I hope you're well today. Today I want to talk to you about bad days. In other words, the days that we all get where things just don't go according to plan, where we feel upset or we feel depressed or we feel stressed or we feel anxious. I became aware on Sunday when I had a bad day that often when I'm recording videos, vlogs, when I'm encouraging, motivating and coaching people through stopping drinking and living a happy, healthy, sober life, that more often than not, my focus is on the positives and the benefits of being living life sober. And of course, there's a really good reason for that, because life sober, when you've had an unhealthy relationship with alcohol, is so much better. And it's so much better in all sorts of ways. But what I don't want to do is to give the impression that it's sunny and rosy and happy 100% of the time, 24/7, because it's not. Life just isn't like that. Life is going to throw us curveballs. Things are going to get in the way of our contentment and our happiness. And sometimes we're faced with emotions and situations and people that make it difficult for us to get through. And I had one of these days on Sunday. So I thought in the kind of in the name of balance and fairness, it would be a good thing to actually share what it's like having a bad day when you're sober and you're living life alcohol free. Now, I'm usually a very balanced, fair, reasonable person. And I'm usually enjoying life and I'm seizing all the opportunities it brings me. However, I've reached a point in my life where my hormones are somewhat taking over. To cut a long story short, I'm in that kind of perimenopausal phase, that phase before the menopause actually kicks in. And so I'm finding every now and then that I get a day where my hormones seem to be in control rather than me being in control. And this was the case on Sunday. And the way that this kind of happened was that I'd planned on Saturday evening to have a great day on the Sunday. I was really looking forward to my sober Sunday. I was looking forward to waking up with a fresh head. I was looking forward to having some rest and relaxation. I had planned not to do any work at all on Sunday, bar sending a couple of emails. I had planned to have some fun, go out, spend some time with my other half. And I didn't know what the day was going to bring, but I had planned that I was going to rest, relax, and have some fun, and we were going to spend some quality time together. And it didn't go according to plan. And one of the reasons it didn't go according to plan was that my hormones had completely taken over. And I woke up feeling like a 5-year-old child. Everything that happened seemed to go against me. And I'm trying to think what it was that kind of kicked it all off, and I can't actually remember because it seems a while ago now. But I basically had gone round to my boyfriend's mum's house to help them. They were doing some boring building work and I was just going to give a helping hand and do some physical stuff. And the sun was shining, and normally I enjoy that sort of thing. But I became so unreasonably cross and angry with the way my boyfriend and his mum were communicating in a way that didn't suit me. I just found myself getting really irritable, and not just irritable, but actually upset, like I wanted to burst into tears. It was completely irrational, completely emotional, and really unlike me. And so I was round there and I was sort of helping them, and I was putting a brave face on it, and I was smiling because I didn't want to look a complete idiot and break down in front of his mum. And so I went through an hour or two of this. Then I started getting this real bee in my bonnet about the fact that our precious Sunday together was being taken up by him doing stuff for his mum. And I started to really get a bee in my bonnet about this, and I started to really focus on the fact this was really unfair, and it was just yet another piece of proof that, that our relationship was at the bottom of a long list of other priorities that he had. And I just kind of did that arms folded, sulky 5-year-old thing where I was literally pouting. And I left and I said, right, I'm going to come home and do some work. But I made it clear from the expression on my face that I was feeling annoyed. And he could see I was feeling annoyed, and he asked me if I was all right. And I just said, yeah, fine. And did that really tight-lipped fine, which clearly communicates not fine. I just behaved like a 5-year-old, like a child. Got in the car, drove home. He came back. I decided not to communicate with him because I was so cross with him. For no good reason at all, just the way I was feeling, just my hormones. We went for a walk in the sunshine, and we were literally sort of a metre apart, and I was taking great pains to make sure I showed him no love, no affection. I had the most miserable walk ever. I was just walking around thinking, well, I should be enjoying this, and I'm not enjoying this. So I had a really, really miserable walk. I tell you what it was like. It was like depression. It was like I've experienced depression at a couple of points in my life, and that's how I felt on Sunday morning. It was, I'm making fun of it now, and I'm kind of taking the mickey out of myself now. When I look back at it, I can see how ridiculously I was behaving. But at the time, it was that nothing was going right. There was no joy in anything. It was kind of like I was numb to what was going on. And even though I had a sense that my behaviour was perhaps out of kilter, it was kind of as if I gave myself up to it. And allowed it to take over and allowed it to happen. And so I was stomping along, feeling really upset, wanting to burst into tears. Everything was making me cry. And we came home. I think we had some lunch, and then we went into town. I decided that it would be a good idea to go and see a film. Because one of the things that I've noticed is when I'm feeling that way, if I take myself out of it by entering into a fictional landscape, like reading a book or watching a film or watching a good drama on TV, it helps me to escape what's going on in my body and my mind. And like I say, this doesn't happen very often. But it did when it did happen on Sunday, it kind of came over me quite intensely. So we went into our local town, went to a lovely little cinema we've got, and watched a film called Wild Rose. I don't know if you've got this in the States, but in the UK, this has been on at the cinema in the last couple of weeks. And it's quite a moving, quite an emotional film. And I literally had tears streaming down my cheeks throughout the whole movie, to the extent that I was having to hold in my sobs. They would have been audible if I'd let them out. And at the end of the movie, I was like embarrassed to hold my head up because I was so obviously, I'd been crying all the way through this movie. So I was clearly in an emotional state. Now, whether it's relationships, whether it's hormones, whether it's emotions, there are always going to be days that are difficult. And they're going to hit you from time to time, sometimes more and sometimes less, depending on what's going on in your life. And the reason I thought it would be useful to share this with you, just to get to the end of that actually, by the end of the film, it had achieved its aim. It had actually taken me out of myself. I'd got so involved in the emotion of the film that I forgot to engage with my own emotions and the way that I was feeling myself. So it helped me release my emotions in that way, and it had taken me away from the way I was feeling. So it did work. And when we came out of the cinema, we were suddenly back to being close again, and we were sharing what an emotional experience it had been, and we were talking about what we'd loved about the film and how great it was and all sorts of things. So it did the trick, and then I spent a really pleasant evening. So two reasons I want to share this with you. One is to demonstrate to you that life isn't all peaches and cream when you're sober. You do get bad days. I get bad days. Very few and far between, but I do get them. And the second, just to inject a bit of realism into this, but the second point is that having a bad day sober is way better than having a bad day when you're drinking. Because, of course, if I'd been drinking yesterday, I would have started drinking quite early on to escape the way I was feeling. I would have been counting down the minutes, the hours, until I could start drinking and I could escape the way I was feeling, and I could kind of ignore what was going on emotions wise, and I could get close to my boyfriend because the drink would allow me to numb out to it, and the drink would have allowed me to have got close to him, to have forgotten everything else, and to have just, kind of ignored how I was feeling. But without the drink, it enables you to kind of sit with the discomfort, to go through the uncomfortable emotions, to really experience them, and to come out the other side. And of course, when you're living alcohol free as well, it enables you to make healthier choices about how to deal with what's going on. So you actually deal with it. So the healthier choice I made was to go to the cinema, watch a film, and that was a healthier way of taking me out of myself. It was a healthier way of releasing all the emotions, the tears, whatever it was that needed to come out of me, and then to reconnect with my boyfriend afterwards. It took me away from that 5-year-old child mode and back into my adult normal self mode. And we had a really pleasant evening at the end of it all. So, so you do get bad days, but bad days sober are much, much better than bad days when you're drinking. Because, of course, bad days when you're drinking, if I'd have been drinking, yes, it would have allowed me to have ignored, numb out, escape, get close to my boyfriend, but I would have woken up the following morning. None of that would have been dealt with. It wouldn't have worked its way through me. So it still would have been to some degree inside me. And it would have perhaps come out in other less healthy ways. And also I would have been contending with higher levels of anxiety, possibly some depression the day after and a few days after, as well as a hangover and feeling just generally sluggish. Sorry, these aren't tears, by the way. For some reason, my eyes are stinging today, and they seem to be watering a lot. That's why I keep wiping. But yeah, it allows you to deal with things in a healthier way, to process things in a healthier way, and to make better decisions about how you're going to deal with things. And things are over and done with quicker. So by the end of the day, it was all over and done with a lot quicker than it would have been had I been drinking, and it had kind of spilled out over the next 24 hours, 48 hours, and it would have spilled out in other unhealthy ways. So I hope that makes sense to you, and I hope that's more motivation and inspiration to continue living life sober and alcohol free, even when you're having a bad day. For more inspiration and motivation on living life happily and healthily sober, you can subscribe to my channel. I'll look forward to catching up with you very soon, but in the meantime, let's go get sober together.